Everyone argues about which Jeep engine is the best, but almost nobody looks at what happens after 200,000 miles. So we dug through real owner reports, mechanic teardowns, recalls, and high-mileage failures to compare Jeep's three most popular engines. One keeps going, one becomes a financial nightmare, and one surprised us completely. First up is the 3.6 Pentastar V6. Quick setup so you know what we're testing. It's the 3.6 Pentastar V6, the 5.7 Hemi V8, and the newer 2.0 Turbo. These are the three engines Jeep has jammed into almost everything you see on the road. The Wrangler, the Grand Cherokee, the Gladiator, the Cherokee. If you've owned a Jeep in the last 10 years, you've probably had one of these three under your hood, and each one has a totally different story at high miles. One of them is a quiet legend, one is a monster with a glass jaw, and one is so new we're still finding out what breaks first. One of these three is going to make you cancel a car purchase this week. So let's start with the one everyone underrates. The 3.6 Pentastar V6 is the engine most people ignore. It doesn't sound cool, it doesn't have a big badge on the fender, but it might be the most reliable engine Jeep has ever bolted into a Wrangler. This one is naturally aspirated. No turbo, no cylinder deactivation, no fancy tricks, just 285 horsepower, a timing chain, and simple bones. Jeep started building it in 2011, and it's still going strong today. Wrangler, Grand Cherokee, Gladiator, all of them. So how does it hold up at high miles? There's a guy who tore one down at 626,000 miles. Not a typo. That's like driving to the moon and halfway back. The mechanic pulled it apart on camera, and the cylinder walls still had the factory crosshatch pattern. The bottom of the pistons looked brand new. His exact words were, "It's remarkable for 626,000 miles." The only thing that actually broke? Some plastic timing chain guides. That's it. Oil changes every 8,000 miles on Mobil 1. That was the whole secret. Before you run out and buy any old Pentastar, there's one dark chapter you need to know about. That skeleton is the early left cylinder head. The 2011 to early 2013 Pentastars had a bad left cylinder head. The valve seats would overheat. You'd get a tick, then a misfire, then a dead cylinder. Jeep never called it a recall. They quietly extended the warranty on that head to 10 years, or 150,000 miles, and hoped nobody noticed. Then they fixed it in mid-2012 with a better head design. So if you're shopping for a used Wrangler with this engine, avoid the early ones unless the paperwork proves the head was already swapped. Here's a quick trick to check. The revised heads have a date stamp of 2062 or higher on them. Any dealer or independent shop can find it in about 10 minutes. If the seller won't let a mechanic look at it, walk away. That one check could save you a $3,000 head repair down the road. For the newer ones, post-2014 Pentastars have one main gripe. The oil cooler housing is plastic. It cracks, it leaks, it drips oil down the back of the engine, and everyone panics thinking the rear main seal blew. Cost to fix at a dealer? Around $800 to $1,500. Cost to fix in your driveway with an aluminum replacement part? About $300. Not fun, not catastrophic, just a Saturday. A lot of Pentastar owners swap the plastic housing for a dormant aluminum piece the first time it starts weeping. That's the last time you ever deal with it. Beyond that, the water pump might start weeping around 60 to 80,000 miles. Some early ones got a lifter tick that Jeep addressed with a service bulletin back in 2014. None of these are engine killers. They're the kind of small stuff you deal with on any car this old. Which brings up the real question. Does the Pentastar actually hit 200,000 miles? And that brings us to the real 200,000 survivors. Go on any Jeep forum and you'll trip over guys at 220,000, 250,000, 280,000 miles who've done nothing but oil changes, plugs, and that one plastic oil cooler swap. The block just keeps going. IC Cars ran the numbers on over 300 million data points. The Grand Cherokee has about a 12% chance of hitting 200,000. The Wrangler is around 9%. Now that sounds low, but that's the whole vehicle. Rust, wrecks, electrical gremlins, not just the engine. The Pentastar itself almost never dies first. It just sits there and does its job. Boring? Yeah. Bulletproof at 200,000? Also yeah. Change the oil every 5 to 8,000 miles. Use a good synthetic. Swap that plastic oil cooler when it starts weeping. That's the whole playbook. And check this out. That 626,000-mile Pentastar wasn't a fluke. When the mechanic tore it apart, he found the timing chain guides worn down. That was the actual failure. Not a broken piston, not a spun bearing. Some worn plastic parts that cost about $150 to replace. If the owner had swapped them at 500,000, the engine probably would have hit 800,000 miles. Now go talk to a guy with a Hemi at 500,000 miles and see if he tells you the same story. He can't, because he's on his second or third top end by now. That's the difference. The Pentastar just doesn't have anything expensive waiting to go wrong. Now let's talk about the engine that broke a lot of hearts. Because on paper, this next one should have been the winner. Next up is the 5.7 Hemi V8. This one hurts, because the Hemi should have been the king. It makes 360 horsepower, 390 pound-feet of torque. That V8 rumble that makes teenagers pull out their phones at gas stations. The block itself is cast iron. It's a tank. Guys have run these to 400,000 miles in Ram trucks with nothing but oil changes and coffee. So why is the Hemi ranked second in this video and not first? 2 words. Hemi Tick. If you own one, you've heard about it. If you're shopping for a used Grand Cherokee, you need to hear about it right now. Because this one issue is killing Hemis between 90,000 and 150,000 miles. That's not old. That's a truck that should still be in the prime of its life. So what's actually happening inside the engine? The 5.7 Hemi has a system called MDS. It shuts off 4 of the 8 cylinders when you're cruising to save gas. In theory, smart. In real life, it's killing engines. Inside each cylinder is a lifter. Inside each lifter is a tiny needle bearing. That bearing seizes. The roller stops rolling. And now you have a hardened metal chunk grinding a groove into the camshaft. Once that camshaft lobe gets ground down, metal shavings shoot through the whole engine. Bearings, oil pump, everything. Game over. You'll hear it first as a tick, then a misfire, then a check engine light, then a repair bill that will make you sit down. Which brings us back to the guy from the intro. That bill is worse than you think. Remember him? 2013 Grand Cherokee, 196,000 miles. Garaged. Synthetic oil every 5,000. The kind of owner every mechanic wishes existed. He got a cylinder 3 misfire and a loud tick. Dealer quoted him $6,500 to tear the engine down and figure out how deep the damage went. Or $10,000 for a whole new engine. Parts were on back order for months. He sold the whole Jeep. And he's not alone. Another guy hit the tick at 112,000 miles. Another at 106,000 miles. Another at 95,000 miles. And this isn't rare. There's an active class action lawsuit against Stellantis right now over the Hemi tick. It covers 2014 and newer Dodge, Ram, Jeep, and Chrysler vehicles. Filed in Delaware. Still ongoing. The average cam and lifter job? $3,500 to $5,300 at an independent shop. Up to $8,500 at a dealer. One owner got quoted $13,000 by a dealer for a full motor swap. But here's the twist. Not every Hemi dies at 100,000. Some mechanics think the real failure rate is under 1% of all the Hemis ever built. Which brings up another point most people miss. Before we get to the last engine, if you want your Jeep to last as long as possible, check out my 500,000-mile Jeep blueprint. It's the maintenance guide I put together covering the service intervals, common failures, and simple preventative maintenance that can save you thousands in repairs. The link is in the description below. A lot of the tick panic is a different problem. The exhaust manifold bolts on these engines are cheap. They snap. When they snap, you get a cold start tick that goes away when the engine warms up. That's a $550 fix, not a $6,000 fix. So how do you tell them apart before you buy a used Hemi? Here's the diagnostic trick every mechanic uses. If your tick gets louder when the engine is warm, that's the lifter. Bad news. If it goes away once you're driving, it's the exhaust bolts. Annoying, but survivable. Now, fuel economy? Let's not pretend. It's a thirsty V8. Real-world drivers see 13 to 17 miles per gallon in the Grand Cherokee. Highway, maybe 22. The MDS system was supposed to save gas. Instead, it's eating engines. There's a trick a lot of Hemi owners do now called an MDS delete. You swap the deactivating lifters for a regular non-MDS set. Costs about $400 to $700 in parts plus labor. And a lot of forum guys with the tick problem swear that once you kill MDS, the tick problem goes away. It's not a guarantee, but it's the closest thing to insurance the Hemi has right now. There's also one more thing that kills a lot of Hemis early: idle time. The 5.7 idles low, around 500 to 600 revolutions per minute. That's not enough oil pressure to keep the lifters happy. Police Hemis and fleet Hemis that idle for hours die way faster than daily driver Hemis. If the used Grand Cherokee you're eyeing was a fleet vehicle or a cop car, run. So the Hemi can hit 200,000. Some do. But you're basically playing Russian roulette with a $5,000 repair bill every time you turn the key. And that lawsuit keeps growing every month. Which brings us to the newest engine, and the biggest question mark of all three. Last one is the 2.0 turbo. This is the engine everyone is arguing about right now. Jeep started using it in 2018. It's a small four-cylinder with a turbocharger bolted on. Makes 270 horsepower, 295 pound-feet of torque. On paper, it's the best of both worlds. V8 torque, four-cylinder gas mileage. In the real world, it's the engine with the thinnest track record and the loudest alarm bells. And I mean literal alarm bells. Because in November 2025, Stellantis recalled 112,859 vehicles in the US over this engine. That's not a small recall. That's one of the strangest recalls in modern car history. Why? The reason is sand. Yeah, sand. When they cast the engine blocks at a factory in Mexico, actual sand from the casting process was getting stuck inside the engines. That sand grinds up the internal parts and destroys the engine. The NHTSA report is worth reading. 36 engine fires, 50 vehicles that lost all power on the highway, 144 warranty claims, 3 injuries. This affects the Wrangler and Grand Cherokee 4xe plug-in hybrid models from 2024 and 2025. And it gets worse. In April 2026, Stellantis had to expand the recall to include the replacement engines, meaning the engines they were giving people to fix their broken engines also had the sand problem. You can't make this stuff up. But the recall isn't the only red flag with the 2.0 turbo. The forum stories are just as ugly. Take the 2019 Cherokee that grenaded on the highway. The owner had 40,501 miles on the clock, out of warranty by time, not miles. A connecting rod punched straight through the block at highway speed. Engine quote? Around $12,000. Another guy blew a piston on cylinder 2 at 60,847 miles. His quote was $13,000. Jeep eventually paid for it after he fought them for months. Mechanics who've looked at these say the problem seems to be heat near cylinder 2, right next to the turbo. Nobody's proven it, but the pattern keeps showing up in Cherokees over and over. So how far can this engine actually go? Nobody knows yet. The oldest ones are only about 7 years old. The highest verified miles anyone can find on a 2.0 turbo is around 110,000 miles. One guy's 2018 Wrangler survived a 315-degree overheat at that mileage without blowing the head gasket. That's impressive. But 110,000 miles is not 200,000 miles. And the question we're answering today is the 200K question. And there's more this little turbo has to deal with. The other problems are quietly stacking up. The 2.0 turbo is direct injection. That means fuel sprays straight into the cylinder instead of washing over the intake valves. So the valves cake up with carbon over time. Every direct injection engine has this problem. You'll need a walnut blast around 80 to 100,000 to clean them. Not cheap, not fun. Oil dilution is another one. Fuel leaks past the piston rings and thins out your oil. One guy on the forums has been doing oil analysis on his 2025 Wrangler. he's finding rising potassium levels, which means coolant is getting into the oil. A technician warned him coolant in the oil will eventually wipe out the bearings. He has 16,000 miles on it. Turbos also cost real money. A turbo replacement on a Grand Cherokee runs $2,900 to $3,700. Spark plugs need to be swapped at $60,000, not $100,000 like on the Pentastar. It's a more expensive engine to keep alive year after year. There is one bright spot, though. A Chrysler dealership tech went on record saying he actually prefers the 2.0 turbo to the 3.6 Pentastar. Says he sees fewer problems with it in the shop. So, maybe the Wrangler application is fine, and the Cherokee application is the disaster. It's too early to say for sure. What we know is this. The 2.0 turbo has recalls piling up. It has fires. It has Cherokees blowing pistons at 40,000. And there's no owner anywhere with 200,000 miles on one to tell us how the story ends. That's the whole problem. So after all that, which engine actually wins? And here's the honest answer. The 3.6 Pentastar takes the crown. Not by a little, by a lot. It's the simplest of the three. No turbo waiting to blow up, no MDS lifters waiting to grenade, no sand-contaminated blocks catching fire on the highway. Just an old-school V6 that keeps turning over year after year after year. If you want the best shot at hitting 200,000 miles on a Jeep, buy a 2014 or newer Wrangler, Grand Cherokee, or Gladiator with the Pentastar. Change the oil. Swap the oil cooler when it starts weeping. Drive it forever. The 5.7 Hemi comes in second. The block is bulletproof, but the top end is a coin flip. If your Hemi survives past 150,000, it'll probably run to 300,000. If it doesn't, you're looking at a $5,000 repair or a new vehicle entirely. That's a rough gamble to take with your money. And the 2.0 turbo comes in third. Not because it's proven bad, because it's proven unfinished. There are active recalls, active fires, active lawsuits. No verified 200,000 example anywhere on the internet. Come back in 5 years and we'll have a real answer. Right now, it's the riskiest of the three by a mile. Here's what a lot of Jeep guys are doing right now with this information. They're skipping the newest turbo models entirely. They're going after 2015 to 2020 Wranglers and Grand Cherokees with the Pentastar. Low miles if they can get them. Full service records. And they're driving them until the wheels fall off. Because the truth is, none of these engines are perfect. But the Pentastar is the only one where the worst case scenario is a $300 DIY fix instead of a $10,000 engine swap. And that's what matters at 200,000. Not horsepower, not torque, not fuel economy. Which repair bill are you willing to eat when things go sideways? So the crown goes to the boring V6 that nobody talks about. The one your dad would have bought. The one that just refuses to die. The Pentastar wins. If you found this helpful, let me know down in the comments which engine is in your Jeep and if it's crossed 200,000 miles yet. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to subscribe because we've got a lot more Jeep content coming your way. And if you want to learn how to make your Jeep last as long as possible, click the video on your screen now. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.